Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers.
Welcome back to another Share Your Light episode. And as I've mentioned before, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I'm excited to be back in the saddle with this. This is an opportunity for us to showcase people in our listening audience who are really stepping into their power, their light, their purpose. They're here to make a difference and really do the work that resonates with who they are. And today's guest is actually exemplifies that beautifully. Her name is Steph, and it's Steph Kamille. Steph is the host of Medium in the Middle podcast. She's a Reiki Master Teacher, a spiritual and business mentor, a PSYCH-K facilitator, an intuitive psychic medium, and an all-around energy enthusiast. She's based out of Banff, Alberta, and she offers services virtually and in person. So welcome, Steph, and thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Thanks, Denise. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of mediums that listen. We have a lot of intuitives. But what I love is Steph, and I mean this with love and compassion, is relatively young and has really stepped into her business with a passion. Her service work is incredible. So could you tell us a little bit about how you started your business and what led you to becoming an intuitive medium?
Oh, yes. So I did start young, and I do feel very grateful that I was able to step into this. I get told that all the time. So I started when I was around 28 years old, and I took a Reiki course, and then weird things started happening. And then I took Reiki Level 2, and more things started happening. And that's really when my mediumship abilities started to open up. But I always joke that you don't realize you're a medium and TLC calls you with a show ready to go. You have to do a lot of development. So it took me a few years to really get it under wraps, to feel like I had my boundaries. And then it wasn't until COVID happened. I was working at a restaurant and I was side hustling for years, always doing Reiki on my days off, always doing things, whether it was subleasing, working at spas, working out of my home. But then when I was working in a restaurant and I lost my job, I was like, okay, what can I do now? And I had a podcast, the Medium in the Middle podcast. So I had been doing the podcast for about a year, and people were always asking for distance Reiki and virtual services. And then COVID kind of gave me the opportunity to figure out how I could go virtual. So I spent hours and hours trying to figure it out and building a website and testing it and having control groups and testing it on people that I didn't know and seeing if it worked. And then I launched my business in 2020 and it went off. And I thought it was because of COVID. And everyone told me, when people go back to work, your business is going to die. When people go back to work, your business is going to die. And then somehow year over year, we grow and grow and grow. And it put me full time within like 6 months. And then I am now just trying to find the balance in year 5 of working 6 days a week, 7 days a week, 5 days a week, trying to figure out days off. So that's really what happened is I lost my job and I was stuck at home and people were asking, and I said, okay, let me figure out how to do distance Reiki. Let me figure out how to teach online. Let me figure out all of these things. And when school and university went virtual, I was like, okay, if people are learning how to be a doctor online, I can teach Reiki online and I can figure out what we need and what we need to accommodate. So yeah, that's what threw me into it, was losing my job.
But I love that because it's divinely orchestrated and you're able to reach so many more people than you ever would have been able to reach just in your immediate geographical area. And I always joke and I say that Reiki is a gateway drug for a lot of people to open up to other modalities. And you and I have chatted about this before, that Reiki is really, that's your love. I mean, you're very, very good at all your other modalities, but your number one is, so could you talk a little bit about why Reiki really resonates with you as a practice?
Ooh, yes. I also say Reiki is a gateway drug. That's so funny. I think Reiki resonates with me so much because I always like to explain it to my students and anyone that will listen to me yammer about it. It's the awareness that Reiki brings. So I always like to say that energy healing is like a new set of glasses where you start to understand your body, you start to understand your energy, you start to think like, oh yeah, how often do I get these headaches? How often is my stomach upset? Why does my right hip hurt? When did my right hip start hurting? So I love Reiki because of the awareness that it brings into our own bodies. And I find that now we're so fast, life is moving fast, we're doing so many things that we forget about I always call your own body your home. And we all need to start at home. We can't run out and clean someone else's house before our own house is clean. So I just love Reiki so much because of the awareness and because we can work on ourselves. And because the more you work with it, the better and better you become. I always compare it to riding a bike. We all start with our little tricycle, and then we get two wheels, and then we have your training wheels, and then we move up from there. And eventually you're riding your bike, drinking a coffee, talking to your friend on the phone, waving at the neighbors, and you forgot what it was like when you were on a tricycle. But we all start off on the tricycle, like it's universal. And yes, some people go faster than others, but I love it because of the awareness that it brings. And then once you have those awareness glasses on, you can never take them off. You can never, oh, I don't want to know anymore. Oh, I don't want to be aware anymore. Oh, I don't want to pay attention to my energy anymore. And I think being aware of your energy is just so, so, so important. And it makes life so easy and fast. And that's why I love Reiki as well, because I always want people's lives to be easier and faster. We don't have to take months or years to learn a lesson. We don't have to take months or years to figure out what the alarm bells of our body are trying to tell us. So, yeah, I could go on and on about why I love Reiki, but I
So
think those are the top, for sure, top reasons.
when there seem to be two schools of thought with Reiki, when I was trained with Reiki, I was taught that I was a vessel and a conduit for healing to come through me, not from me, which is something that I've applied to all of my work over the years. And other folks feel that it's coming from their source light, which when you do your trainings, which I know you have several coming up, how do you, what is your modality? How do you tell people to
Yes, we
really
are the
connect?
conduit. So I definitely agree with you. We are the extension cord. So I
Mhm.
always like to explain we plug into Reiki and then we plug into wherever we're going. Nothing is being taken from you, nothing is coming from you. You aren't being drained. We are just the vessel. So yeah, we definitely learn and teach under that school of thought.
And one thing that people will want a Zoom call or they'll want, a regression or they'll want something virtually. And again, COVID did open up the world for all of us. Do you physically feel a difference when you're doing distance Reiki versus when you're doing Reiki in person? Because you're right in someone's auric field when you're working with them personally, or does it feel the same for you?
I it does feel different. When I do distance, I have to connect much stronger. In person, I can touch you and connect. With distance, you really have to go in and form that bond. So there's some things that my body does when I'm connecting distantly to let me know that I am connected. So I do this like weird yawn thing. And when I disconnect, it feels different. But it is the same results. I've had people do in person and distance, and it's the same experience for them. So, which is really nice to hear, minus my hands touching you. And I do kind of prefer distance because I can work a lot faster. I don't have
Hmm.
to move a chair around your body. I don't have to walk from your head to your toes and your toes to your belly and your belly to your toes and your toes to your head. That takes minutes. So I always say I probably get between 4 and 7 more minutes of actual Reiki in a distance session because there's not the formalities of you laying down on the table, you taking off your coat, you putting back on your coat, you leaving, all those
Hmm.
things. So yeah, it is a little bit different for me, but I do like that once I'm in, my process is the same, whether I'm in person, whether I'm distance, I still do my same process. It just feels a little bit different because I am connecting quite deeply with distance.
I love that because it's also everything is vibration and energy, so you can send that. I always equate it to, sound waves. It's going to still get to where it's going, but being able to direct that energy to someone and then on the receiving end. So that's a really, really nice description that you gave. Thank you. And that you're saying that you use your body as you call it home. And I always say our body is a barometer. So when you feel things, when you're doing distance Reiki or doing Reiki on someone, do you physically feel in your body what is in what, how are you drawn to where to really direct your energy?
Yeah, so when I work distantly, I use my body as a surrogate. So I kind of imagine that I'm putting on like a wetsuit that's your energy. So from my toes up, I kind of imagine I'm going into Denise. So I'm Denise, I'm Denise, I'm Denise from my
Mhm,
toes to my head. And then as soon as I'm fully in your energy, I do a scan, and that's when I'm like, "Oh, what's going on with your shoulder? Oh, and what happened to your knee? And oh, have you broken your collarbone 3 times?"
mhm,
Then at the end of the session, I peel off your suit and I push you away and I disconnect, and now I am Steph again. So yeah, I imagine that my body becomes your body, and then I work on my body because it's yours. So I do like the surrogate method when I do distance Reiki, but there's lots of ways that you can do distance Reiki, and I always try to stress you have to find the way that's easiest for you. For me, I have to do it on a video call. I find that's the easiest way. And before we begin, I ask to see you from your head to your toes. So you have to show me your hands and you have to show me your
mhm,
toes, but it just helps me connect to your energy so much faster if I can do a scan with my eyes. And then once I'm into your energy, my eyes are closed, you lay down, and we're in. But some people connect on the phone, some people connect with voice, some people connect with a photo, some people use a surrogate teddy bear. So whenever I'm teaching distance Reiki, I give like 14 different options of how you can connect distantly. And I always say, try everyone and see what you like best, and then try everyone again and make sure that whatever way is easiest for you is the easiest way for you.
That's excellent advice because that applies to all any other work you're going to do
Hmm.
based on intuition or mediumship or connection is finding the way that it works best for you. I agree with you 100% on that. And really, really good point that you made about making sure you disconnect from the person that you're working with when you finish. And even though you're being a conduit for healing energy, if you're stepping into my virtual auric field by doing this process, then you're going to have to step out of it, or there's going to keep a connection. And I think a lot of times people forget you have to disconnect with any of the work that you're doing.
Yes,
So
it's the most important step.
So you that feels I can feel your passion for this, your level of experience and expertise. And so you were doing Reiki on people and then you started to get more intuitive hits and more mediumship hits during a Reiki session, which I think happens for a lot of people. It
Yeah, it
opens
is.
that door up.
Yeah, it is very common. And I think because Reiki gets you into that space of neutral, of nothingness, you're letting the energy flow. You aren't thinking about your laundry list. You have to buy eggs. You have to pick up the kids at 4 o'clock. Your mind should be clear when you're working. It allows for everything else to drop in. And we know with all spiritual work, you need that clear mind. You cannot be thinking. And that just allows everything to drop in so much easier. So, yeah, like you said, it's the gateway drug because when you're in that zone, it's like, oh, and who's Bob? Oh, Bob's your uncle. Oh, and who's this? And oh,
Mhm,
what's going on with this? People are always like, how do I know I'm not making it up? It's like, why, of all the things to think about, why are you thinking of that? Why would you randomly think about some man named Bob? Or why would you randomly think of a grandma making blueberry muffins? Or why would you randomly think of purple slippers? Like, you would randomly think, oh, I gotta buy eggs. Oh, I forgot to take out the laundry. Oh, the dog has to pee. Those are random thoughts. Fine. But
mhm.
when it gets to like spirit and drop in, I don't know where the school of thought of like I'm making it up came because I wish people would just trust it more and trust themselves. Maybe you are making it up, but you're probably not. And what's the
Right.
worst case scenario?
And there's a spontaneity to it. It just it's there. And
Hmm.
if there was a catalyst for it to coming in, as you mentioned, the logical things in our everyday life, but the intuitive hits come in, they come in out of left field often. We'll talk a little bit more about the mediumship in a minute, but another modality that you offer is PSYCH-K. And what is that? Because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with it.
Yeah, so I love PSYCH-K. PSYCH-K rewrites your subconscious mind. So if you have limiting beliefs, What we do is we go in, we find the limiting belief, and then we find the new belief that you want, and we kind of reprogram your mind like a computer to take away the old belief and bring in the new belief. But we do it with energy. So it still feels like a Reiki release. Your body still feels like it's processing and it feels like it's working. But what you're doing is you're finding your limiting belief. So I like to explain it as you're trying to find the whole. Your brain is very smart, and we're trying to find the word that you're like, ugh, I don't like that. So, for example, you can say, I am abundant, and that can test positive, and you can say, yeah, I am abundant. But then when we say, I feel abundant, your body's like, oh no, I don't feel abundant. I am abundant, but I don't feel abundant. So if you are abundant, but you don't feel abundant, now how are you going to act? So whatever you believe to be true is how you act. I can save money, you'll save money. I can't save money, you won't save money. So we try to find your limiting beliefs and we try to be very specific about what they are. Find the opposite. So if the limiting belief is I can't save money, we swap it. I can save money. I easily save money. I want to save money. I prioritize saving money. What is the word where you're like, oh no, I don't prioritize saving money? No. Once we find that belief, we reprogram it and we release the old belief, bring in the new belief, and then you start to act that way immediately because now you believe that. So just as a very simple example, because I can Psych-K myself, I Psych-K the smallest things. I hate taking out the recycling. I will take it and I'll put it by the door and I will trip over it for a week because I just hate taking out the recycling. I was like, why do I have to walk this across the street? So I just Psych-K'd myself. I enjoy taking out the recycling. I want to take out the recycling. So now when my recycling bin starts to fill up, there is something in my mind that goes, woohoo, soon we can take out the recycling. And my conscious mind is like, why am I thinking that? Like, who in their mind thinks, woohoo, I get to take out the recycling? But because I've reprogrammed that, every time the bin gets full, it's like, woohoo, I get to take out the recycling. So it's interesting with Psych-K because there are layers. Then there was a period of time where I stopped taking out the recycling and I was like, well, why am I not taking out the recycling? I want to take it out. I like to take it out. And then my brain says, well, you don't have time. And I was like, oh, a new belief. I don't have time to take out the recycling. Reprogram. I like taking out the recycling. I always have time to take over the recycling. And now my recycling doesn't sit by the door. But we have to do that in our lives. Again, the awareness. What is it that you feel? I am, I know, I feel, I like, I prioritize, I want to. What are the words where your brain and your body are like, oh no, I don't like that. So part of the work is figuring out where the limiting belief is, and then we reprogram it using Psych-K. So Psych-K is just an easy and fast way that you can reprogram limiting beliefs. It's not the only way. There's lots of ways that you can do it. I think the cool thing about Psych-K is we don't need to know where it came from, the limiting belief. We just need to know, is it there or is it not there? And if it's there, we fix it. And if it's not there, we move on. So we don't have to go into like, when did you start feeling that you couldn't save money? What happened in your life that made you feel like you didn't save money? We don't have to go into the therapy of it. We're just like, do you believe you can save money or not? You don't? Okay, let's fix that. So it's amazing.
Is it a semi-hypnotic state? Is it a collaborative effort? How do you reprogram?
Yes to both. So I do surrogate for this too because it's a lot faster if I do the balances for you and then we can move through more statements. But yeah, it is the more I work with it because we have to, me as the practitioner, I have to say certain things to you. And it does feel like hypnosis sometimes. I'm always like, listen to my voice, follow this. But because of my Reiki background, I can balance very fast because I know how to move energy. So when we're doing balances, I will explain to you where it sits. So for example, I'll be like, oh, your jaw is clenching. Oh, this sits in your jaw. Oh, this makes sense that it's sitting in your jaw because you have a problem speaking your voice and it's sitting in your jaw. So when you are done Psych-K, you'll feel those spots release. So you'll feel a lot lighter and more expansive. Obviously, we don't choose our limiting beliefs. They just happen based on things that happen in your life. But once they're removed, you're like, oh yeah, I don't feel that weight on me anymore. So I love it as an energy exercise. The limiting belief part is amazing too, but it's really interesting to see what you believe. And again, the awareness of starting to realize where your limiting beliefs are.
That's fascinating because I think so many people are wanting to do the work, but they don't want to dredge up with the old stuff. They don't feel a
No.
need to revisit. I read something recently and it was saying, oh, these are, indicators of childhood trauma. And I read the list and I thought, yeah, well, damn well, tell me something I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's in there. I'm working, so the fact that you're able to say, where are you here and now? What do you want to shift and let go of? That's incredibly empowering. And as you mentioned, it's quick, it's easy. You can work through a lot more than having to start from, and I'm not discounting the need for traditional therapies or practices, because there is a place for that as well. But we're talking about how can I move forward with my life and get my recycling taken out.
Yeah. Well, and I think because of my Reiki background and I can understand your energy when I go into it, and then because of my intuitive background, you can come to me and say, "Oh, like I'm having a limiting belief about eating healthy." And then we'll talk about it for a few minutes, and I'm like, that's not your limiting belief. It's actually about you prioritizing yourself. And the person goes, ooh, and I'm like, yeah. So we're gonna balance prioritizing yourself, and the eating healthy has nothing to do with it. So
Mhm.
I also feel like why I'm good at PSYCH-K is that I can mix everything together. Where in a 45-minute session, we work through about 10 statements, and we get to the bottom of things. It's not about, oh, I don't prioritize, working out or eating healthy. It's like, well, actually, the limiting belief isn't about working out or eating healthy. It's about you making time for yourself, you putting yourself
Mhm.
first. So I'm good at kind of calling people out on that and being like, this isn't the thing we need to do. This is.
So it may be one session for one person and 3 sessions for someone else to really solidify those, or can it
Yeah,
usually
well,
happen in?
no, yeah. So you can, so Canadian of me. No, yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Um, it depends, like, obviously we all have a lot of limiting beliefs. It depends how many you want to work on. So you would make 10 limiting beliefs, we would work through those. And then if you had 10 new limiting beliefs, you could book another session. If you find 10 more limiting beliefs, you can book another session. But usually 1 to 2 sessions, you're going to kick off your big ones, and then you can start to get into the nitty-gritty. So if you start to find things that are more specific, but the more specific, the better. The other cool thing about your limiting beliefs are they're like dominoes. So, for example, if you don't believe you're abundant, you're probably not calling in abundant. You're probably not saving money. You're probably not making money. You're probably not all the things that come with not feeling abundant. But as soon as you feel abundant, it triggers all those other things. So, one limiting belief can domino a lot of other things because they're all wrapped up in you not feeling abundant, you not putting yourself first, you not prioritizing your care. So once you prioritize your care, well, now you're working out, well, now you're eating healthy, well, now you're going to bed early, well, now you're drinking water, well, now, so those weren't limiting beliefs, those were just byproducts of you not putting yourself first. So it's also interesting to understand the mind and how it works, because sometimes it's not a limiting belief that I can work out every day. It's the limiting belief that, oh, you deserve the time to work out every day. So we can cover many different subjects, self-love, grief, so many things. I'm blanking right now,
No,
spirituality.
no, but, and
Um,
that's the beauty of it, is because if someone came in with wanting to take their career or their business to the next level, but they're not seeing themselves as worthy or capable, or I don't have the right degree, or I don't have this, but they have the passion and the drive to do it, that seems like something you could work with that would help them say, okay, why are you holding yourself back? You know
oh
you can
yeah,
do
like
this.
I am worthy is the number one, that the statement that we do. I am worthy, I am enough, I am deserving.
Mhm.
Those are massive statements that can, when you feel deserving, now you feel deserving of everything. When you are worthy, when you are enough, now you're worthy for everything in your life. So, yeah, there's really big blanket statements that you can do that can change a lot.
So, how did you come up with the name for your podcast, The Medium in the Middle?
I was sitting in a bar and so I knew I wanted to make a podcast for months, and I bought the equipment and I was practicing recording, and I was trying to find the spot where it wasn't echoing, and it was months and months and months, but I didn't have a name, and I was like, I can't start until I have a name. And I had a friend visiting that I used to work with at Lululemon back in Ontario. And she was visiting Banff, and she came to visit me when I was working at the restaurant, and we went downstairs to the bar to have a drink. And I was like, I just can't think of a name. Like Steph the medium Steph the, you're doing your flow charts and you're writing all
Mhm.
your words and you're trying to find them and you're going online to the word creators. And we were just like kind of ad-libbing and talking about it. And I was like, I can't start till I have a name. And then she turned to me and she was like, what about medium in the middle? She was like Malcolm in the middle, but you're the medium in the middle. You're in the middle.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my God, that's it. I like paid my bill and I went home and I was like, I can now begin like medium in the middle.
Mhm.
And it's just, yeah, it's perfect because I'm in the middle. Like whether you're a medium, whether you're doing Reiki, no matter what I do, I am in the middle. Steph is in the middle. So even though people are like, well, you don't even do mediumship readings, I was like, I'm still a medium. Whether or not you do mediumship readings, you're still a medium.
Right.
FYI, everyone. So
Right. When I first saw medium in the middle, what I thought was, oh, she's the conduit. She's between the
yeah,
realms. She's between spirit and here, which made perfect
yeah, it was
sense.
perfect.
And you've been really open about that this isn't a time in your career and in your work where you want to do one-on-one readings, but you're exactly spot on or bang on for the Canadians that you really don't have to be practicing that as a medium to be one because it's something intrinsic to all of us. And I really believe it comes more naturally to some people, but we all have the capability to connect with spirit.
Yeah, I agree. And I connect with spirit all the time. Like this morning, my mom was getting her nails done and the woman's son's passing away, and I'm like giving her a reading over text message. I was
Yeah.
doing a Reiki Master's course last week and the woman's daughter was passed away. We were talking to her daughter. Like I still use mediumship all the time, but do I want to be sitting in front of someone one-on-one for 10 readings a week every week? No, that's not my passion right now. Do I do mediumship all the time? Yes. Does it happen
Mhm.
all the time? Yes. I teach about it. I help others. I host circles. I love mediumship. But for me to do it one on one as my full time job, I have so many other things on the list of things that I'm obsessed with.
Mhm.
It's just like it's not number one and it's not number two. So something has to give.
And if it's something that you're meant to do more of in your practice, spirit will make sure you know that
Oh, yeah.
because we all grow and evolve and it shifts and changes the longer you do this. So I absolutely love that you respect that. But it seems like the focus of your work is to empower people with their own ability to connect with spirit and to gain confidence in how they perceive the information coming through.
Yes, I always joke, and my grandma hates on me for this. I want to put myself out of business. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want people to think that they need people like me and you. It's beautiful for the help, it's beautiful for the support, but eventually I don't want you coming to me. Eventually you have your own glasses, you understand, you know these things, you have the ability to do it on your own. So I like helping people at those beginning stages, getting up on their feet to be like, okay, you can do this, you can connect on your own. I can teach you how to do everything I do and then getting them up and running. But I always joke, I want to put myself out of business. I want to teach everyone how to do this on their own so that they are confident that they don't need people like us.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I also think that there's more than enough to go around.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when I see people in this work who are being competitive or fearful or, oh, I can't promote someone else because it's going to take away from me, that's not the
No,
way it works. We're
no.
trying to cast a wider net. And so many people right now need a helping hand.
Mhm.
There's a lot of grief, there's a lot of heaviness. Something that you don't offer, but I know about you, which I love, is that you're incredibly astute with business. So I know you do mentor work. Do you encourage other people who are already doing this work? Do you mentor more for skill set? What is that part of your business like?
Yes, so I do a mentorship program where I take people on for 3 months at a time and we work together. My focuses are Reiki, mediumship development, and business development. I always say those are my wheelhouses and that's what I'm best at. But I've had people do the program for different things. I had one woman who worked for NASCAR and she was a consultant and she hired me because she would just said, I like your business sense. You know nothing about my industry and it'll be interesting to get your perspective on my problems. And we worked amazing together. She was like, okay, this is what's going on. And what do you think? And I was like, is this possible? Is this possible? Could you apply this? And she was like, wow, great idea. Never thought of it that way. So I have an application process to make sure I believe I can help you. Again, that integrity piece. I'm not just going to take your money. I'm not just going to work with you if I don't think we're a good match, especially 3 months at a time. I have to think I can help you. We have to vibe. We have to get along. So yeah, Reiki development, mediumship development, and then if you're starting or growing a business, I love business. I'm so
Mhm.
double Capricorn that I love procedures, I love numbers, and I know you're like this too. I love tracking, I love year over year growth, I love figuring out how to make money. And while I don't like to talk about that side of things because if you're in this industry to make money, you are doing it for the wrong reasons and you will not be successful. Just point blank, period. So
Mhm.
I can never lead with the money portion because, yes, I love making money. I'm good at it. My business is very successful, but that is not why I do this. And as soon as money becomes your focus, you will fail in spirituality. You will. I'm guaranteeing you. Spirit does not support that. Spirit supports abundance and spirit supports being in integrity and working for the right reasons and having a greater cause. That's not money. Does the money come? Yes. So I really watch how I market my business stuff because I don't want to say, hey, work with me to make 6 figures. Hey, work with me to be, fully sold out. Hey, work with me to, well, no, if you don't have your base and if you're not in integrity and if you're not doing this for the right reasons and if you're not ready and if you haven't done the work, none of that stuff comes. And no matter what I can teach you, you're not making 6 figures in this business if you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Or you're not going to have a consistent client base, or you're not going to continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah, no.
And you and I are on the same page with that as far as ethics and integrity and taking the high road. And often people think, I've been quite open that there are a lot of people that are doing this for different reasons than what I perceive as
Mm,
service work, and they struggle,
mm-hmm.
or they're successful, very successful for a short period of time, but I've never seen it sustain.
No. And
Um,
especially going into year 5 of working full time, and I work 6 to 7 days a week, so there's lots of business to be had. I tell people not to give me money probably more often than not. Oh, you don't need
mhm.
this course. Oh, no, you don't need to take
Yep.
that again. Oh, you've been trained once. You don't need to train again. Oh, no, you could do that on your own. The amount of messages and DMs and emails where I say, no, you don't have to book that, or no, you don't need that. Come on, you don't
Yeah.
need that. It's just that's what keeps me abundant is I am honest. So same thing with my mentorship. If I don't believe I can help you or if I don't believe I can take you to the level that you want to go, I will say that. I'll say, "Hey, I don't think I'm the greatest fit. I think you probably need someone else. I think, I don't want to just take your money and waste your time." I will refund people. I just had a woman where she was like wanting to build a business and then 3 sessions in as we were building and building and building, she was like, I don't want this. She's like, I had no idea what was entail and I can't do like, no, I've thought about it and this isn't what I want. And I was like, okay, great. Do you want me to refund you for the rest of the program? Because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to take your money. She was like, what? Like, oh, integrity. Like it's so simple. Yes, I will send you back that money. I literally made it back 4 times 3 days later.
Right. Because you're taking the high road and you're doing it in collaboration with spirit.
Yeah.
This
And
isn't
spirit
about
always knows.
oh, hell yes. You,
You just
you
have to
can't.
listen. Listening's the hard part.
Right.
Um,
But especially in the the energies right now are a little bit more fear-based. There's a lot of stress and anxiety about finances, abundance, security, stability. So for us to both sit here and say, get out of the way, trust spirit, do it for the right reason, highest and best. I gift a lot of work and I don't advertise that.
Same. You will never hear me talk about all the work I do for free.
No, because it's nobody's business except the people that I'm choosing to gift that to.
Yep.
But it also is keeping that cycle going. It's the abundance. There's plenty. I don't have, and I do the same thing. If someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I want to take this class," and I already know in my heart that they've far surpassed what I'm going to be able to offer to them, why would I encourage them to do it? That's not right. It's not morally right.
Yeah. And I think that leads into a really good point about the ego work of this. There is so much self-work and checking yourself and making sure that your ego isn't surpassing things or you're doing things for ego. And I think, the people who give things away for free and promote it, that's egotistical. You're doing that for yourself. Hey, look at me. Look how great I am. You should be doing that work in integrity because I like the way you say like the work of service, like you're always doing this in service. And it's true, if you're doing it in service and not for the show and not for the publicity, again, you're in integrity, you're going to be abundant, your business is going to thrive, everything is going to flow. If it's not flowing, have a look at yourself in the mirror and see.
Right. And that transfers also into if all of a sudden you're not feeling like you're as clear a conduit, or you're not getting the messages that you usually get, or it's a struggle to bring through the energy through a Reiki session. For me, that's always a red flag of, have I gotten in my own way? And have I forgotten who I work for here?
Yep.
So yes, I'm self-employed, but I work for spirit.
Yep.
And I think that abundance can present in a lot of ways. And for me, abundance is when I can get out of the way and let those messages come through. And people say, "Oh my God, that's amazing." I'll say, "No, it's not me. I sit here like a hand puppet and it comes through me, not from me." But you made a really good point a few minutes ago, is that you've done a lot of training, a lot of certifications, a lot of work to get yourself to the level where you can be such a clear conduit. And that's a really important factor.
And I like to remind people how long that takes, because I know it's easy to see me now in year 5 of business, but that's year 5 of full-time business. That's not the years before of, I can't stress enough how long I worked 7 days a week. I cannot stress that enough. I don't have kids and I don't have a partner. So when I say I work 7 days a week, I really mean it. And that was years and years and years of working a full-time job and having 3 part-time jobs, working a full-time job and doing Reiki after work on my days off before work. I used to know that about my internal clock was every 6 weeks, I needed 1 day off so I didn't burn out. So every 6 weeks I would take 1 day off and then I would keep going on the cycle. So the comparison trap, I like to warn people, do not compare your chapter 1 or 2 to someone else's chapter 20. When you've been doing this for 10 years, yes, it's easy. When you've been doing this for 6 months, yes, it feels like work. I like to compare it to learning piano. And if you bought your child a piano and piano lessons, what would you say? You better practice 20 minutes every day after school because how are you going to get better at piano? I didn't buy you that piano for nothing. And you would make them practice every day because how do you get better at piano? You practice, you go to your lessons, you do your recitals. Spirituality is the same thing. What do you got to do to get really good? You practice every day for 20 minutes. You meet other people who play piano. You go to piano recitals. You talk about piano. When you're bored, you do piano. That's how you get good. And you're not good in your first 6 months. Some people are. But you're good in year 3. You're really good in year 5. And then there's people like you where you're the masters, where I'm like, you can tell you've been doing this for years. And I go to those people, go to the people who have been doing this for 20 years and watch how they work, watch their structures, watch how dialed in everything is. That took 20 years. So I never want people to compare themselves to me or other people because you don't know how long we've been doing this and practicing. You are exactly where you need to be. You are developing at exactly the rate you need to be developing at. You are perfect just where you are. Just keep practicing your piano 20 minutes a day. And if you forget for a month, that's okay. Just practice when you remember. So, yeah, the
That's a
comparison trap is dangerous.
that's a beautiful, beautiful way to describe it, and to also really bring it home that do it your way, practice your way. Don't, but with the social media, with the compare, with all the you watch a show on TV or Netflix that has a medium show that has been so highly edited that they hit everything. There's no way they ever
Yes.
miss anything. And no disrespect to any of the folks that do that, because there are some incredible public mediums and intuitives that do this work. But there's also a lot of really good theatrics
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Some
Um,
people are really good at the story of things.
but you're right. It's any muscle that you work is going to improve.
Yeah. And that's something that I try to share in my Reiki Level One course. So I try to share all the things that took me years to learn. So, for example, boundaries and disconnecting. It took me about a year and a half to realize I could shut this stuff off. It took me a
Mm-hmm.
year and a half to realize I could go to the grocery store and not have noise, that I could sit in a yoga class and not feel overwhelmed, that I could go out to dinner and not have to hide in the bathroom in the middle of dinner because I didn't know what was happening. A year and a half. I don't want my students to take a year and a half to learn
Mm-hmm.
boundaries and how to shut off. We're learning that on day one. But that's also the thing of like, okay, it took me a year and a half. Hopefully it doesn't take you a year and a half, but it might still take you 6 months. It might still take you 3 months. So also those lessons that take time to figure out what you need.
But that goes along with, those are important things to share with people at the beginning of their journey that you had to figure out on your own. That's a huge step up. That's a huge handing out, helping someone step into this more. Because when people say, "Oh, I can never shut it off," and I'm thinking you're going to either burn out or you're not being honest, because you
Yep.
can't sustain at that level.
No. And I think there's also a fear around, oh, if I shut it off, I'm shutting off my gifts and they'll
Yeah.
never come back. And that just makes me laugh because all of the people who are in this work, we're always off. Like
Mhm.
98% of the time we're off unless we're sitting in front of a client and doing this work. So
Yeah.
trust me, you can be off all day, every day. And when you want it on, spirit will show up. It's just about finding that balance and knowing that you do not have to be on all the time, and that is how you will easily sink.
And it allows you to enjoy being a human being on the planet
Yes.
without
Very
sucking everything
important
else up
step.
on the sponge.
Yeah.
Yes.
I find that's another big mistake people make is they want to skip the human step. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
no, no, no. Your human form doesn't disappear. We're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to do human things. We're still going to have to learn lessons. There's still the hard path. We can never skip the humanness. I know it's fun up there with spirit and the fairies and the rainbows, but you have to come back down to earth when you're done work. You're still going to have dishes in your sink, no matter how spiritual you are.
Mhm.
There's laundry to do. So just finding that balance takes years, years.
Yeah. You're right. It does take balance, and it takes boundaries, and it takes, um, and for me, reminding myself every day that I really feel lucky that I get to do this.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had a lot of jobs for a lot of years. It's like, this is great. It pays my bills. It takes care of things. I can give my kids a quality of life. But when you wake up and you realize, wow, this is what I get to do today, it's a nice feeling.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I
a
love
really nice
working.
feeling.
I love my work. I love the people that I work with. Like, again, you're sitting in so much gratitude that everything flows really well when you're in doing the right thing. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're not doing something, or if you're doing something you're not supposed to be, spirit will tell you there'll be a roadblock. There'll be something in your way.
That's right. So you do have an upcoming online Reiki training in July?
Yes, I do Reiki trainings every month. I teach Reiki Level 1 and Reiki Level 2. In July, the course is the 27th and the 28th for the next Reiki Level 1. And that course is actually special because it is my 85th time. 85th
Whoa.
time. teaching level 1 and level 2. So that doesn't count all of my master's trainings and my advanced courses, but I've taught Reiki
Wow.
85 times online. That also doesn't include in
Okay.
person. So yeah, I teach
So,
them every month. They're very popular and I love teaching Reiki.
so is it an all-day event that
It's
people
2
would
days
participate?
actually. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's the weekend. Because you receive the attunements, you can only, I teach Asui Reiki, so we have a lot of rules to follow, but you can only receive 2 attunements a day and they do have to be spread out. So Saturday you'll get 2 attunements, Sunday you'll get 2 attunements. So we're Saturday 1 to 5:30 Mountain Standard Time and Sunday 1 to 5. And then you'll receive all your attunements on that weekend. And we cover everything I wish I knew in level 1 and all the helpful tips I've learned over the years doing Reiki. So it's my favorite course. Level 1 is a new set of glasses, a new perspective on the world. It's such a gift to give to yourself, to want to be aware of your energy, to want to understand what your body is telling you, to want to understand your alarm bells and try to make your life easier and faster. So yeah, I hold that course very dear to my heart, and I host them monthly. They're very popular. They sell out. I only accept 11 students to make sure that everyone has a chance to share and talk and get to know each other. And also for the attunements, it's a lot. I do 22 attunements a day. So
Wow. That is a lot. That is a whole lot. So if people want to contact you or more information about what you have to offer, your classes, your podcast, where would be the best place for them to find you?
yeah, my podcast is available anywhere you listen. Medium in the Middle podcast. It's available for free on all streaming platforms. And then my website is themediuminthemiddle.com. Has my courses, my mediumship circles, my sessions. I work in person in Banff, Alberta, and virtually. And then on Instagram, I'm at Medium in the Middle. TikTok, Medium in the Middle. I'm Medium in the Middle everywhere. You can find things. Pinterest, YouTube, we're all over.
Well, thank you so very much for doing this with me, Steph. I can feel your passion for this work, and I'm sure your students feel very supported and inspired and know that they're in capable hands. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I
Yeah.
hope my students feel that way. That's the goal. But I
Ah,
appreciate it. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you.
yes. And for those of you that are listening, remember there is something special that you came to share. And just take a minute and look within and say, what is it that how would I like to grow and evolve and enjoy my time here? So thank you for listening, and we'll be back with another Share Your Light pretty soon. Bye.